It's not surprising that Canada is renowned for its developments in communications and technology. The telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell at his parents' farm in Brantford in 1907. The transatlantic wire service was developed, connecting the Canadian public to Britain, and Canada had the first domestic satellite.
Dès 1864, lorsque les pères de la Confédération se réunissent à Charlottetown et à Québec, une des questions sur laquelle ils travaillent, c'est bien entendu comment unir le pays et surtout comment faciliter le déplacement des biens et des personnes, parce qu'il n'y avait aucun moyen rapide de communication. Donc, on s'entend sur la solution de construire un chemin de fer, donc un chemin de fer qui va unir le Québec, l'Ontario, la Nouvelle-Écosse, le Nouveau-Brunswick. Et lorsque la Colombie-Britannique va entrer dans la Confédération en 1871, on crée également un chemin de fer pour permettre aux gens de rejoindre la Colombie-Britannique.
But the telegraph was seen as a way to connect people, and so wherever the railroad went, the telegraph followed. Radio broadcasting was not in existence at the time of Confederation. The BNA Act of 1867 outlined the powers of the federal government to consist of banking, interest, criminal law, the postal code, and the armed forces. At the time of Confederation, technology was going to have a significant impact, and that there would be unforeseen developments in the future, and that Section 92, allowing for undertakings that transcended the provinces, was probably one of those. Section 92 outlined the powers of the provincial governments, which included property, contracts and torts, and sort of local undertakings. There was also the Peace, Order, and Good Government Clause, under which a lot of the unallocated powers would eventually be given to the federal government, such as aeronautics and radio. And these were things that were seen to be of national dimensions and transcended the power of the provincial governments. After World War I, Canada had entered into international agreements pertaining to radio broadcasting, and it signed a declaration, the Radio Telegraph Convention, in that year with 79 other countries. This was in part to test whether Canada could get involved in this kind of thing without reference to the British Empire. But Quebec immediately put questions to its appellate court as to whether or not the federal government had such power. The federal government managed to preempt that hearing by putting two questions to the Supreme Court, one being whether the federal government should have jurisdiction over radio broadcasting, whether, and in fact the terms it used was whether the federal government should have the power to regulate radio broadcasting via signs, signals, and Hertzian waves. And the second question being, if it did not, to what extent was Parliament limited in that regard? The Supreme Court of Canada, by a 3-2 majority decision, agreed that the power belonged to the federal government, and the Privy Council upheld that decision, arguing that this was an undertaking that was larger than the powers of the provinces, and likened it to the telegraph, so that this was an issue of national dimensions.
1936 est un moment important dans notre histoire puisque Radio-Canada, CBC est créé. Et ce que l'on oublie, c'est que CBC à ce moment-là avait deux responsabilités importantes. La première, c'est bien entendu la radiodiffusion. La deuxième, c'était l'organisme qui réglementait l'utilisation des ondes au pays. Donc, si des gens voulaient créer leur propre station de radio, ils devaient présenter au Conseil des gouverneurs de la CBC, de Radio-Canada, une demande pour créer des stations. Et c'est ce qui explique en partie le développement de la radio en français au pays, puisque les francophones dans l'Ouest devront amasser de l'argent, soumettre des demandes, et le tout va prendre environ une vingtaine d'années entre le moment où on dépose des demandes de permis et l'ouverture de ces stations radiophoniques. Et il va y avoir des émissions de radio et de télévision très populaires, notamment Hockey Night in Canada, la soirée du hockey, qui a vraiment permis aux Canadiens, peu importe où ils se retrouvaient, de s'écouter et de partager une passion commune pour le hockey.
Most significantly, there was a recent decision announced by the CRTC in December 2016 requiring that broadband internet be a basic service. The CRTC believed that in so doing, they would catapult Canada as a leader in digital connectivity. In February of this year, the Minister of Innovation announced that the federal government would invest $500 million into this task, extending internet into 300 isolated communities, including First Nations offices. And it was likened both by the CRTC and by the federal Minister of Innovation as similar to the construction of the railroad and railway spurs into various communities across Canada, that it would serve as a way to connect people, and that the internet was the modern equivalent of electricity to the Industrial Revolution.